nutritional therapy practitioner, and I'm also an NPC fitmodel competitor and bikini competitor, and this is my 1 week post-show vlog. So let's first talk about my feedback from Erin from my check-in last week. So you guys have seen my show day vlog. So going back 2 weeks now to when I had sent feedback to Erin, or my check-in form to Erin, and then got his feedback. So my check-in that week, it was just a couple of days before my show, and I had the terrible eczema outbreak and had the red spots all over my torso and the eye swelling that week, and just it had been kind of a rough week from that standpoint. And also like the lower abdomen bloat that I've been struggling with as well. So his feedback to me was that he did not feel like my lower abdomen stuff was anything related to digestion, just because that has not historically been an issue for me, and I'm not seeing any patterns that way. I didn't tell him this in my check-in form, but I'd cut out anything that I thought could be a trigger, starting like 2 weeks before the show. Artificial sweeteners, carbonated beverages. I didn't add any new foods to my diet. I didn't even change, I don't even change where I get things from. I mean, you guys see my shopping hauls. I get the same brands of the same things all the time. So, I don't change things up. And, it seems kind of silly, but for some competitors who have really sensitive digestive systems, like even switching from like one brand of chicken to another can sometimes trigger digestive issues. So from that standpoint, yes, I agree. If there had been serious issues or an allergy, like if the eczema was being caused from like an allergy, or the rash that kind of showed up on my torso, if any of that was allergy related, which I don't think it was, his feedback to me was that he felt that it was all just stress. He is British, so he is very, harsh is not the right word, but I think I'm just learning to communicate with him. And he's like, well, if it's stressing you out, you just shouldn't do the show. You should compete when you can be more relaxed. And I know he wasn't saying that in a way like, well, you just shouldn't do it, but it kind of came off that way to me. And I know that's not what he meant, but what was stressing me out and what I did not communicate well to him was that part of what was stressing me out was just not feeling like I had a great plan. And, I think in his mind, where he was coming from as a coach, well, he'd given me the plan. It was change nothing. For me as the competitor, it was just different. I've never done a show like that before. So, I think that's what caused me to have a lot of self-doubt. And also, going into a show weighing so much more than I ever have on stage before, and having to learn new posing and different suits, and just everything was very, very different. So yes, it was a walk-on show for me, but I feel like it would be kind of like asking him to do a walk-on show in a division he'd never competed in before. It would be different. So even though it is a walk-on show, it still is not a walk-on show in a category that I am comfortable in or that I have competed in before. So, yes, was I feeling a lot of stress from that? Absolutely. And that was really it. He said, just enjoy the day Friday, relax, don't work out, put your feet up, that kind of thing, and just enjoy the show day. So that was the feedback from my check-in. And I will talk about my check-in from this week in the outro. Something that I wanted to do in the intro that I thought would be fun, because I forgot to do a pack my bag with me, and I don't think I've ever remembered to do one before a show. So before I unpack my bag, I'm like, well, why don't I just do an unpack my bag with me? I mean, it's all the same things that I'd be packing in it. I might as well just unpack them with you. And there are a few things that I've obviously taken out or used, but I'll kind of talk about what those things are. So I just pack this all in my roller bag. It's amazing to have a roller bag because you don't want to be putting stuff on your shoulder if you can prevent it, so that you don't mess up your tan, and just you don't want anything touching you that doesn't have to be touching you. And it just makes it so easy. And you end up using a lot of stuff. So I bring multiples of everything. And I already thought of a couple things that I had in here that I already took out that I'll talk about. So the very first thing, we'll just start. It's such a mess. This bag is a mess. I mean, I was in and out of it all day on Saturday, and yeah, it's trashed. So the first thing I have here are two pairs of my two pairs of heels. They both need to be clean because they still have tan all over them. So I have my 5-inch heels from the Shoe Fairy, and also my 4-inch heels. And I think I have one of each in each hand. Yeah, I think I do. I do. I have both the lefts and both the rights. So the reason I always bring 2 pairs of shoes to a show, because they do have a strap. So if the strap was to break, you know, you just, or if the heel or something happened or any part of this broke, you just always want to have a backup, because there's a lot of things that you could probably get fixed at a show, but having no shoes would be a challenging one. So I just bring both pairs, and I ended up wearing my 4-inch heels, which I talked about. Yeah, you can see the difference. The difference in the heel height is notable. Let's see how I can, they're clear, so I don't know if the camera's really gonna pick up well on that, but you can see the difference in the heel height here. So it's a pretty notable difference. And since I knew I was the only person in my height category, so I was definitely going to be at least a couple of inches taller than all of the other competitors, I decided that wearing the 4-inch heels was probably the smart thing to do. So that's what I did. I wore the 4-inch heels on show day, but I had the 5-inch heels as a backup. And I put them on with tan on at some point, so they both are just gross. Yeah, these need to be cleaned. And the nice part about the Shoe Fairy shoes, though, is this is washable. It's actually it's like a slippery fabric, not like an absorbable fabric. So these actually, they'll clean up beautifully. Like, they won't even look like they've been worn. They clean up so nice. So 2 pairs of shoes. All right, and of course I had my suit. So I had my suit. I made sure to put my number on it the night before so that I did not forget my number. You don't want to forget your number. There are not backup numbers. So I had my number on my suit the night before and just tossed this in the bag. Oh, there's so much glue on it. I talked about that in my show day vlog. So much glue. And when I talked about adding more scrunch, that's what I mean. Like, see how it's like, it's real stretchy. So they could scrunch this in more to kind of bring this back part in a little bit. One of the things I find kind of unflattering about this bottom, and I don't mean to talk about this all the time, but see how straight it is across the back? Like, it's really straight across the back, where I'm so used to suits being more pinched down in the back. So I think adding more scrunch will keep the width on the glutes that I need to be in compliance with the category requirements, but will allow it to look a little bit more flattering and not sit quite so high up on my back, which is not great. So I did not, normally, like when I compete in bikini, I always bring 2 suits. So if you have a backup suit, definitely bring it. I did not, so I just had my 1 suit, and fingers crossed that nothing went wrong with it. It was not fixable with a safety pin and some stitching. So a little less things to go wrong with it than there would be with a bikini suit. The other thing I brought in this bag is a pair of flip-flops. So because it was snowing on show day, I obviously didn't want to wear my flip-flops to the venue because I'd be walking, you know, through wetness, which would mess up my feet. So I wore just regular shoes in, but then I switched out to my flip-flops for like all the time that I was inside at the venue. It's just so much easier. You know, we go back to get your tan, you're walking around quite a bit, and you don't want to walk around in your heels, and you don't want to walk around barefoot, or footless, shoeless. So having a pair of flip-flops, highly recommend. And there are people even backstage who are walking around or in the pump-up area that are wearing slippers. You know, like people wear slippers. That's totally fine. If you have slippers you want to bring those. But I definitely recommend bringing something that's easy to slip off and on that is not your heels, because you don't want to be just standing around in your heels all day. This bag was just in there. I left it in there as a just in case, like a little Ziploc baggie if I needed anything. This is actually something I got at the show. It's a $10 off coupon for Supplement Giant. That was an add-on. The other thing I had for my hair, I had 3 things. I have my hairspray, which is actually a dry texturizing spray to add some volume. I love this. It's from Sexy Hair. It's the Texture High Tide Texturizing Finishing Hairspray. Love this. I also had my Cake Beauty, the Curl Friend, totally to die for curl defining cream. So this is like an anti-frizz product. I didn't end up using any of this. I did though use my Twist hair oil a couple of times, like before prejudging, before finals, just to kind of calm down the frizz a little bit. You know, with the humidity that day, my hair was getting kind of out of control. So had these 3 products to touch up my hair. I also had my One Pink touch up or pump up band. These are great. The nice part about bringing bands is that you can, you know, kind of make them as hard as you want them to be. I have other strengths, and sometimes I do bring more. Like for previous competitions, I've brought a couple. This time I just brought 1 because there was not a whole lot of pumping up to do for FitModel. So just brought 1, used this to pump up backstage. I also always throw a couple of these microfiber towels in my bag. Even though you're not getting wet, I mean, if something like was to spill or anything at all, like I'm always just so paranoid about getting any wetness on me. So I always bring a couple of microfiber towels. So I had those, a couple of Kleenex because my nose runs all the time. Those were in there. This is a blow up travel pillow. Really nice to have because you do spend a lot of time just hanging out backstage. And the nice part about this one is it's inflatable. So you just, blow air into it and then it squeezes down nice and flat. So that's great. So I always just toss that in, always. Put that back in its little baggie and it just zips up into its little travel case. So I had that. I got a couple of samples of protein powder at the show from Alani Nu. I've actually never tried these. I got one at my last show too, the Munchies flavor, and I took it all the way to Vegas with me, thinking that I might drink it on the way and didn't. So at some point I actually need to try these. I'm sure they're delicious. I had backups of gloves. I've mentioned this before, absolutely a must. Once you are tan, have a lot of gloves because, I mean, for me, doing even things like taking my contact lenses in and out, anything at all, washing my face, when I wash my hair the morning of, like always have gloves. So I always bring backup sets of gloves. The other thing I bring, because I am a contact lens wearer, I always bring backup disposable contact lenses. If something was to happen, if you lose a contact, like I literally would not be able to A, see on stage, or B, drive myself home without my contacts. So I brought 2 extra pairs of contact lenses. I also had, in this little pouch, I had a reusable straw. Same thing, like, if I thought if I had a little energy drink throughout the day, like they're usually giving out energy drinks, that I would, use my own straws because I don't like just anything I can do to avoid possibly spilling on myself. And that includes even drinking out of a can. So I bring a straw, but I took it out to wash it. So that's not in here. I had this bag also inside my roller. So this had my food in it. I had a sleeve of rice cakes. I had these wet one wipes, to wipe your hands because you don't want to wash your hands, but I just use these antibacterial hand wipes, after using the bathroom, and, because the palm of your hand, doesn't matter if that stays tan. So just getting your fingertips and your palms and just anything else that needs to be wiped off. I had a couple of packets of peanut butter and one of these chia squeeze, these Mama Chia squeezes. I love these. This is the strawberry banana flavor, which is one of my favorites. These are delicious. They're also really hydrating and help you kind of stay hydrated. Like if you're sweating a lot or something and you feel like you're losing a lot of water, like the chia seeds kind of help you stay hydrated. I had a couple of electrolyte packets. So I really like doing one of these electrolyte packets on show day. These are the ones from Element. And I also had just Trace Elements powder as well that I did not end up using. And I had a sleeve of rice cakes and a couple of turkey jerky sticks in here as well. I also had another microfiber towel and my baby spoon and my baby fork. Not that I had anything that I was gonna eat with a spoon or a fork, but I had those with me as just in cases. I also had my toothbrush and toothpaste in this bag. So I like being able to, it's nice to be able to brush your teeth. I always bring toothbrush, toothpaste, and usually dental floss, which, the other bag I took out of here was the one that had my little makeup stuff in it. That actually had the floss in it. So toothbrushes, toothpaste, I had gum, a hair tie. I had a bunch of lip glosses if I wanted them. I ended up wearing like a Color Stay lipstick and my lips didn't feel dry at any point in time, so I didn't need that. I had a couple of pairs of my headphones with me, which is nice just so you can kind of zone out. You don't want to do that when it's like getting close to showtime because you don't want to miss your call outs, but that was all in this bag. So it was nice so I could pull this out if I knew I just wanted like my snacks or whatever without having to like rummage through the rest of the bag, which was really nice. I also had, of course, my black silk robe to wear once you go to get tan, and especially after you've gotten glazed. If you get glazed, you don't want to put on anything that could absorb the glaze, or else it kind of defeats the purpose of getting glazed. So you'll see all the women backstage and some of the men walking around in these like silk robes. They're cheap. I got mine on Amazon. It's like less than $20. Blanket, always my nice cozy blanket. And you would think that like tan would get all over everything. Like the tan actually washes out of things pretty well. It likes to stain surfaces more than it tends to stain fabrics, with the exception of like bedding. Your bedding will get stained with tan. I mean, I have stuff that's just, the tan gets through everything. I feel like probably my mattress, even at this point, has tan, even though I have like layers and layers and layers protecting it. just with so much tan over the years. So always bring a blanket. It's cold backstage a lot of times, and it's also just nice to have something soft to sit on or lay on. Some people bring like folding chairs and other things. I just bring stuff that I can fit in my roller suitcase, so it is a blanket. I had this just kind of little baggie with me just in case I needed to, you know, like run around and grab something, or I don't know, just as a backup. I had this in there as well. And then finally I had, of course, I mentioned that I had my makeup bag. So even though Patty did my makeup, I still just had stuff to like touch up my base. So like the foundation that I wear that day, the floss was in there. I had just a couple of other like random kind of toiletry items in there. And I also had all my jewelry. So I always bring the jewelry I'm planning on wearing. And then I also just bring like all the other stage jewelry that I have, like in a little bag. Because if somebody needs something or someone has something break, or after one of the shows last year when my earring flew off and fell into the toilet, like luckily that happened after the show was over. But if that had happened, you know, in the midst of show day, you know, you always want to make sure you have backups of things like that. Earring backs is another one. You know, the backs can fall off. So if you have spares of those, but bracelets, you know, that way if somebody loses something or breaks something, I've always got spares. So I bring that as also. And then finally, the one thing that I'm always like dying to do when the show is over is put on a nice soft pair of underwear and a really compressive tank top. Actually, the one that I had with me on show day was the one I'm wearing right now, but it's the same one. It feels good after wearing your suit all day to put on something just that is not your suit. That is clean, that, you know, is not stinky, and, you know, that's really nice to put on. So those are things I always remember to bring. And of course, if you're going out after the show, you know, whatever clothes you're going to be wearing to go out, you'd want to have that with you as well. I had my gallon of water. I also had just my regular 40-ounce water that I could, you know, use to mix up the electrolytes, and then, you know, my gallon as backup. And I'm glad I did, because I mentioned this in one of my videos, that this venue I'd been to several times before, which I have, and that they had a water filler. Well, guess what? They had the water filler completely blocked off with plastic, so you could not use it. So the only option was those, and I think they were turned off this time, was the little push button, you know, regular old school style drinking fountains that splashed people last time. So I think they looked dry. I think they were just not functioning. So if you didn't bring water to the show, there was no water unless you were like drinking water out of the sink in the bathroom. So definitely bring your water. That is my advice. If you need other stuff, there's plenty of rice cakes and peanut butter and who knows what else backstage that people would probably give you if you needed it, but water, there was not. So yeah, that was it. That was what was in my show day bag. I used pretty much everything I brought with me. Except, I mean, obviously I didn't need my backup shoes, which was great. And yeah, that's it. If you have questions about what to plan to bring for show day, or comments or anything at all, let me know. And I'm not sure what the rest of this video is going to bring. In the outro, of course, I'll be talking about what I sent for my check-in this week. First post-show check-in. I'm still tan, which I love. Rocking that like several day out tan. But it is nice. My hands are finally starting to fade a little bit. They stay dark for a long time. My ankles and feet right now are probably the darkest part of me. The rest of me is starting to fade, which is nice. So I thank you all so very much for being here, and enjoy whatever comes next. All right, so this is my Costco and Walmart haul from the week. I'm also probably going to run to Trader Joe's because there were things I wanted at Walmart that I forgot to get because I just saw an open checkout lane and took it. That's my only excuse. I ended up not walking back through the store like I planned. I'm like, oh, look, there's an open checkout. And I just went in there and checked out. And as soon as I got to my car, I realized I'd forgotten a few things that I wanted, but I can walk to Trader Joe's and get them. So I decided not to go back in. So this is what I got at Costco. I got a pack of the chicken tenderloins. And again, this is a big pack. There's actually 6 of these. If you have not seen the video where I talk about cutting them up prior to putting them in the freezer, I highly recommend it. They're just a lot easier to handle if you actually cut them into the 6 chunks and then kind of stack them on top of each other when you put them in the freezer, versus putting them in the freezer like this big pack, because they stick together and are really impossible to deal with when they're frozen solid. So definitely cut those apart before you freeze them. I'm gonna cook up 1 pouch today and throw the rest in the freezer. I also got a bag of the organic blueberries. I love these. You guys have seen my meal prep. I put blueberries on almost everything. They go really well with zucchini, which I also got at Costco. Right now they have these mixed bags, so it's still a 3.5 pound bag, but it was 6 zucchini and 2 yellow squash, which I was really excited about. And then I also got a bag of the turkey jerky. I like having this on hand. It's just a great, quick, easy protein snack if I need it, especially good for days when I'm really busy at work and just don't have time to eat a meal. Has 10 grams of protein per serving and only 8 grams of carbs. So this is a great thing to have on hand. It does have to be refrigerated after you open it, so if you buy that, keep that in mind. They had the veggie bouillon base back in stock. Not a whole lot of them. They were on the spice aisle where they kind of used to be. They only had a few, but I grabbed one. Only one, I know, not like me, but when I shop at Costco, I pay cash, and I knew how much cash I had, so I knew I could get one. If I went over, I would have gone over what I decided as my budget before I went in. And then I also picked up a big thing of the Calm Magnesium Citrate. I'd use this at night. It's just helpful for sleep and also helpful for digestion. I do have another magnesium on Subscribe and Save with Amazon, but depending on whether or not this one's on sale at Costco, I go back and forth because when this one's on sale at Costco, it's cheaper. When it's not on sale, the Amazon one is less expensive, and they're both good. So I got that. And then at Walmart, the only things I got, I went in for other things, and like I said, I didn't remember to get them. So I picked up a few more zucchini, just 4 of them, just little guys, just so I had enough to make it through the whole week. A couple bags of the fat-free mild cheddar, a honey Dijon mustard, love this. And then I wasn't planning on getting these 2 things of digestive greens, but they had them, or super greens, they had them on sale. So I picked up the Bloom greens and superfoods in the berry flavor. They had this one marked down to $15, so it makes it only 30 cents a serving, so that's really a good deal. And then they also had this one from Biome, I'm assuming is how they pronounce it, the digestive greens, marked down to $12. So picked up one of those as well, because even on Amazon, this one on Subscribe and Save is still $18, so the $12 was a really good deal. So I will try those when the time comes, and they don't expire until 2026. So plenty of time. June, I mean, there's over a year before these expire. These ones, same thing. They have a year. So I don't know why they were marked down, but they were. So I grabbed those. And yeah, that was it. The things I needed, I wanted more cauliflower and more frozen Brussels sprouts. So those are the things I will probably run to Trader Joe's for either today or sometime next week. And that's it. And we're back. It is the end of post-show week 1, and I'm going to talk about my check-in from the week and just kind of the challenges of the week overall. So, first and foremost, the sun is shining, and yesterday it was, I think, 86 degrees. So, a week ago, when I had my show, and I think the high was not even 40, actually no it wasn't, and it was snowing most of the day, and then yesterday, 1 exact week later, it was 86 degrees and sunny. So, and it is gorgeous and sunny out there right now too. So the weather in Colorado in the spring is unpredictable, but I survived a snowy show day and got rewarded with some beautiful weather this week. So let's talk about my check-in from the week. That's a very loud something just went by. So my check-in from the week. I did text a bit with Erin throughout the week. The day after my show, my weight was down just a little bit, which is typical for me. And then it started to skyrocket, so that by the end of the week, I was up basically 10 pounds from where I was the day after show. And it was quite distressing. So I had been texting with Erin throughout the week. I did not submit my check-in on Thursday, which is my normal check-in day. I actually did it on Saturday, just because like I said, I was texting with him throughout the week and doing some things and just kind of really struggling. So let's talk about my check-in. I did take some check-in pictures eventually. And yes, I'm standing in my bikini pose because I just feel like it is a far more flattering pose than the fit model pose. So there's my check-in pictures from the week. And no posing. I did not pose at all this week. That was the most posing I did, was to take those pictures. So let's go through my check-in. So first question, digestive issues. Typically my answer is none, but this week I did have some mild constipation, and that was a lot of what Erin and I were kind of corresponding about throughout the week. It was completely resolved with just the addition of some osmotics. So osmotics are, products like stool softeners or Miralax, those things that draw water into the large intestine and just kind of instigate a bowel movement. So it was resolved, and it was very unusual and very uncomfortable. Thursday was like the worst of it. I mean, I was so uncomfortable on Thursday. It was really bad. And it did get a little bit better on Thursday or on Friday, and then Saturday was a lot better. And then today I'm feeling totally normal again, which is great, which is really good. Very unusual for me, as you all know. So how are you feeling overall well-being? I said, not great. I'm still struggling with eczema, especially bad around my eyes. That has caused quite a bit of swelling and general irritation all week. It is so bad. Yeah. Also the front of my legs, and I didn't put this, I thought I did. I also have a rash all over the front of my legs and my entire face. All the skin issues along with the weight gain have really been bumming me out. So the eczema I thought was getting a little bit better, and then it came back like full force. Like most of the days this week, my eyes were almost completely swollen shut each morning, and they itch like crazy. They hurt. They don't feel good. They're swollen. It hurts to blink. It hurts to do everything like that involves seeing, which is everything. And I have a rash all over my entire face that just itches like crazy. So trying not to itch my face all day. Also, it's red and peeling, and it's just been very unpleasant and definitely starting to get to me. I also have a rash on the front of my shins. That does sometimes happen to me with the tan. Well, sometimes I'll have a little bit of a reaction, but the tan is pretty much gone, and the rash on the front of my legs is better, and the little spots are finally getting better. I did have a couple more kind of pop up, but they're all pretty much resolved now. They're a little bit itchy still, especially the one right on the front of my torso is still a little bit itchy, but they seem like they're getting better. I've been trying not to just live on antihistamines or allergy medications because those are not great for you either. And so it's been a struggle. Let's just put it that way. It really has. It's been really, really hard. The face just constantly itching and burning is probably the worst of it. Like it feels tight and uncomfortable, and my eyes hurt, and it just has been a pretty unpleasant week. And then with all of the weight gain that I had, this rapid weight gain, and just feeling very conflicted with the communication with my coach. He said it's stress, but then he's like, well, it's definitely not water. I'm like, well, then it's fat. He's like, well, it can't possibly be fat. I'm like, well, so what is it, man? Like if it's, it has to be something. It's not invisible. It's not air. So I've been just frustrated and just not feeling great. So that's how I'm doing overall well-being. Week of the mesocycle I'm in, and talking about soreness, I said I'm in meso week 4. I did have some mild soreness in my glutes and chest, all resolved within 2 days. Just really kind of pushing it hard. Week 5 is where you push as close to failure as possible. So week 4 really ramping back up, and did have some soreness, which was good. I had some definite chest soreness one day where I kind of just really hit that chest session pretty intensely. I only do right now in my lower focused mesocycle, I only have one real chest exercise during the week, but I hit it really hard and was definitely a little bit sore from it. And just glutes, since I'm doing glutes basically every day, they were definitely a little sore, which is amazing. Like that's really good. Any exercises I'm having issues with? I said none. Anything else that he should know? I said, I'm feeling a little generally down after the show. I don't really feel like I have a goal or direction, and that's really true, and I'll talk more about that. Weight, blood pressure, how much water. I did increase my water. He asked me to increase my water by 1 to 2 liters a day, which I did. Sticking to the diet. Quality of sleep. My quality of sleep was pretty good. I put it as an 8. Like I've been getting good sleep this week. Recovery, I put as an 8 because it's felt really good. Energy has been like a 6. My energy has not been great, and I think just because I've been kind of mentally struggling, it's made my energy feel kind of low. Digestion I put as a 6 because I did definitely struggle with something this week that was really unpleasant. Stress has just been normal. I put it as a 4 to 5. Same thing with appetite, normal, 4 to 5. My glucose, my steps, sleep routine, none of that's changed. Personal goals for next week, I put stretching and yoga, and number 2, vacuums and lower abdominal control. That's really something I need to figure out. It's really bothering me like a lot. So definitely need to figure out like what's going on there and how I can make it better, because if I can't figure this lower abdominal look, I mean, even if this is just the way my body looks, like it can't continue to look this way. It's not conducive to the sport I am in to have my lower abdomen look like this. So I need to either figure it out or figure it out. Asking about stool quality, I said normal, but we talked about the Thursday issue. How are my pumps? My pumps were good. I had some really good pumps this week. I think just really isolating the movements, really kind of pushing things hard in the gym. Pumps were like an 8. How does the workout load feel? I put it as a 7 out of 10. Heavy, but doable. Anything else you should know about training? I said no. Anything that causes pain? No. My sleep score for my wearable was 86, so pretty good. Resting heart rate, HRV, and then pictures. And you guys have seen those pictures. So that was my check-in from the week. And that's kind of the other thing I wanted to talk about in the outro, is just like dealing with the post-show blues, I think, is something that is definitely talked about in the competition world, or like it's any time you have like that kind of serotonin letdown after like a big event, like a wedding or a vacation, or big life events can definitely lead to some of that like reflexive sadness or like bluesy feeling, just because you had this big goal or this big event and it's so exciting and that's all you think about, and then it's literally over, and what do you do? I've never had a show like this in any way. So something I've really been struggling with is just feeling like I did not present my best on stage and that I did not look my best, and that's not something I've ever dealt with before at a show. I've always felt like every show I've done, I've improved on the look before, with perhaps the exception of last season, where I actually do feel like my first look of the season was better. But at the time, I didn't, I was really pleased with the improvements I made into my second show. Looking back at it, I personally feel like my first look was better, but at the time I did not. I felt like I looked better at the second show, and I still had improved, and that's the big difference. Like it's not that I didn't make the improvements I needed to make. I just think, look to look, I think maybe the first look was better, but that's beside the point of like feeling like I had put my best self on stage. Had I worked as hard as I possibly could? Had I improved? Had I done everything I could do getting on stage? Yes. This time, that was not the case at all. Like so I don't feel like I put my best self on stage. So then it's like, well, then I only have myself to blame for being unpleased with how things turned out. And I'm not displeased with my placings. Obviously, I placed first in my category of one. I did not win the overall, but that I fully expected. I was not the best athlete on stage, but I don't feel proud of what I did in a way, like I do because I did it, but that's kind of just like, it wasn't my best. And that is a feeling I've not ever had before. So like when I look at that, I'm like, all I see are the things I need to improve on. I can't look at that and be like, but I did this and I improved here and I improved here. I didn't. Nothing I did was an improvement over my last season. So that's a really challenging thing, and that's on me. And I didn't know I was going to feel this way prior to doing the show, and you just don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I could have done differently to make that different, but it is what it is, and I just have to live with that. I have to live with the outcome of my choices, and my choice was to compete in this show, and I did not put my best self on stage, and that's disappointing. So, it's kind of tough too. Now I look at it, I'm like, well, where do I go from here? And that's also not something I've really dealt with before, because I've always had something. I've always had something coming up after my competition season, whether it was another show or going to the Olympia, or a couple of years ago, I competed in November, like the week before Thanksgiving, and I had a really big birthday dinner to prep for. I was making a birthday cake for somebody important, and then I was prepping Thanksgiving for a big crowd. And, so I had a lot of things to like immediately keep me busy doing something else. So I never had that feeling of like, what am I even doing here? Like, what just happened? Like, what am I doing? Like, what is the point of all of this? That kind of thing. Like, I never had that because I always had something, something I was looking forward to coming out of the show that wasn't the show. So like the show was exciting, and when the show was over, then I was really excited to get on to like this thing. And whether that was the next show or, like I said, some other fun life thing that was going on. And with this show, I came out of it and it was just like another, it was just another day going in, it was just another day coming out. And yeah, it has felt really, really weird. And I'm not trying to say anything negative about my coach. My coach is great, but I don't feel like I'm getting the support I need there. And that's on me to communicate that to my coach. And I don't even really know how to communicate that. So trying to figure that all out, trying not to just seem crazy. Then I had all this weight gain that I was dealing with that then was making me feel kind of nuts. And of course I'm communicating that to my coach, but then I'm trying not to because I don't want him to think I'm just insane, and kind of making me feel like I'm just being kind of crazy or just stressed out or just nuts or retaining a ton of water, but then says it's not water, because if it was water I'd have high blood pressure, but my blood pressure's normal. Like, it's just so many mixed signals coming from my coach about the experience that I'm having, and maybe me not knowing how to express the experience I'm having, and also trying not to just be completely self-centered and make this whole thing about myself. It's been a lot. So I have definitely been struggling this week, and I'm not sure where to go with all of that. So if anybody has any thoughts or tips or advice for me, please leave those in the comments below, because the reason I put all this out there is to hopefully help other competitors or inspire other people just in life in general and in competition. And I am here for all of that feedback or that help from all of you as well. It takes a village to be a human. we all need each other. Everybody, we all, on this big green earth we call home, we all need help from other people. So, and I do, I have some amazing friends in the bodybuilding world who I have reached out to this week and who have been very supportive to me and of me, and kind of helping me deal with some of this. And they've been there before, and like they've been through competing and coming out of shows and having those feelings of being a little bit lost. And I've helped other competitors as well. I think I mentioned this last year when a friend of mine competed for the very first time ever. Like, she came out of the show and she's like, I've just been feeling kind of weird or kind of blah. And I'm like, yeah, you got the post-show blues. Like, here's some resources and here's some great podcasts to listen to. And it's totally normal to feel that way. And it is. I think for me this time it's a little bit different. Like I said, those feelings of like, I've never felt like I've really let myself down in a season before. And I think that's, that is a different type of struggle. That's different than just like, oh, I don't have a goal anymore. It's like, wow, I really blew that. Like, I really can't take that back. That lives forever. So yeah, that is how my week has gone. But I've had some decent workouts, and I'm dealing with the weight issues that I'm having and hoping to get that all kind of balanced back out as the week goes on and as I get into next week. So for now, this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you guys enjoyed my shopping haul from the week. If there was anything else that I put in this video, I don't know if there was or there will be, but yeah, that's kind of been the week. Coming off the show, got a little bit of the post-show blues, got a little bit of the personal issues to deal with. So that is that. But until next week, please, please, please spread positivity and light to yourself and everyone around you. I'm sending you some of this beautiful Colorado sunshine. It has been gorgeous this weekend. It's been just amazing. So sending some of that to all of you. And I will see you all here next time.